putting on my top hat, tying up my white tie, brushing off my tail. Heaven, I'm in heaven. And the way you look tonight.
Goodbye, my friends. I'll see you all in Glockamora.
Some fine day.
As time passes, some famous figures are forgotten, while others are remembered, but for one specific thing. Fred is not forgotten, almost as famous now as he was in his prime, known as arguably the best dancer in movie history. He is AFI's fifth best actor of the classic period. As I say in the Fred and Ginger documentary, this shortchanges Fred, and people might be amazed at how accomplished a career he had, how incredibly talented he was. Fred and his sister Adele started in Vaudeville, and then starred on Broadway until Fred's first movie appearance in Dancing Lady in 1933. The majority of the public never saw him act and dance until then, but they had heard him sing, starting 7 years earlier, with his first Billboard Top 100 hit in 1926. By 1932, he had the number one hit of the year, a feat he would repeat again in 1935, as well as the number two song of 1936. In the 1930s, only the great Bing Crosby also had two number one and one number two songs of the year. Not many consider Fred Bing's main contender for top songs of the year. Yes, Fred was that loved on the radio. Many of his songs hit the top 10 for the week or weeks during the 1930s. Here is the list, and after this I take you through the songs. This is from two sources. The yearly rank is from Playback FM, and I am unsure about the ranking methodology. The highest weekly is from Radio Man. I can only find a comprehensive listing where I can do my own analysis starting in 1958. Fred sang songs from the greatest composers of his time, a period with so many great composers, and they all loved Fred doing their songs. The greatest of all, Irving Berlin, wrote the songs for 3 Fred and Ginger movies, as well as an earlier song, Putting on the Ritz, that Fred would perform in his greatest solo dance in the movie Blue Skies. George and Ira Gershwin composed for 2 movies, as well as Fred's first hit from the play Lady Be Good. Jerome Kern provided songs for 2 movies, with Dorothy Fields and then Johnny Mercer. Cole Porter wrote Fred's first huge hit, Night and Day, for the play Gay Divorce, the only song carried over to the movie version Gay Divorcee. Notice in 1936, I'm Building Up to an Awful Letdown was written by Fred himself with Johnny Mercer. Like I say, Fred was one multi-talented person. Fred and his sister Adele had been working their way up the Broadway ladder when in 1924 they finally got the lead in the smash hit Lady Be Good, also the Gershwins' first play. In 1913, 14-year-old Fred and 15-year-old George Gershwin struck up a friendship that would last a lifetime and connect their 2 careers. At that time, George was a song plugger, salesman performers who played songs to sell them, while Fred was starring on Vaudeville. They shared dreams for the future. George said, "Wouldn't it be great if I could write a musical show and you could be in it?" A decade later, their silly dreams came true. Their best-known works are Swanee, 1919, sung by Al Jolson; Fascinating Rhythm, 1924, this song, sung by Fred and Adele Astaire. Their orchestral compositions included Rhapsody in Blue, 1924, and An American in Paris, 1928. Embraceable You, 1928, was sung by Ginger Rogers in Girl Crazy. I Got Rhythm, 1930, was sung by Ethel Merman in Girl Crazy. The opera Porgy and Bess, 1935, included the hit Summertime. Of Thee I Sing, 1931, was the first musical to win the Pulitzer Prize for drama. Imagine how much more they could have done if George did not die from brain cancer at only 38 years old. It was a big loss. From the play, Fred had the number 13 song of 1926, his first Billboard Top 100 hit. Irving Berlin's great Putting on the Ritz first appeared in a 1930 movie of the same name and was an immediate hit, the rendition by Harry Reichman becoming the number one song of 1930. Every record company put out a version, and Fred's version hit number 30 for the year. In the end, though, this song would become more associated with Fred than anyone else, because of his great song and dance routine to this in Blue Skies, 1946. Drive-In's number 3 ranked top 100 movie dances. It had a revival when Peter Boyle's Frankenstein Monster and Gene Wilder sang it in Young Frankenstein, 1974, in an homage to Fred's version. It was again brought to the public's attention in a well-done version by Taco. Fred's career is tarnished by cancel culture warriors for his blackface routine in the Bojangles of Harlem routine in Swing Time, 1936. But that is such garbage. It was an homage to Bill Bojangles Robinson, the first great black movie star, whom Fred had befriended when he was 17 on the vaudeville circuit. They used to play pool together. Fred not only did not have a racist bone in his body, twice during his career in movies he performed homages to black performers, again in the Shorty George dance routine with Rita Hayworth in You Were Never Lovelier, 1942. For his rendition for Blue Skies, Fred asked his good friend Berlin to adjust some of the lyrics from their original racist overtones. The version of Putting on the Ritz by Harry Reichman was the number one song of 1930. For his second Billboard hit, Fred's version did very well, hitting 30th. That was 1930. This song now belongs to Fred.
Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue on that famous thoroughfare with their noses in the air? Now if you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits, putting on the Ritz?
The next year, 1931, Fred had two songs that hit the weekly charts. I Love Louisa at number 4 and New Sun in the Sky at number 10, both from Fred and Adele's last play together, The Bandwagon. This was the first two of several recording collaborations Fred did with Leo Reisman and his band. Reisman had over 80 hits during his over 30-year career, starting in 1921. I came across this advertisement of Reisman performing at Central Park Casino, otherwise known as Casino in the Park, and I wondered if this was where Fred met Reisman. This was where Fred and Ginger had their first date, and in his bio, Fred said it was their favorite spot. Howard Dietz and Arthur Schwartz were the composers for the play and regular collaborators. An on and off successful team for 30 years, they wrote standards like Dancing in the Dark, By Myself, You and the Night and the Music, and That's Entertainment. Here is I Love Louisa, which hit number 4 for the week, from the play The Bandwagon, Howard Dietz and Arthur Schwartz composers, Music by Leo Reisman and his band.
I love Louisa, Louisa loves me. When we roll on the merry-go-round, I kiss Louisa, and then Louisa, Louisa kissed me. We were so happy and free. Oh God, but she's a beautiful Louisa. Oh, when I choose them, I love her great big bosom.
Here is New Sun in the Sky, which hit number 10 for the week, from the play The Bandwagon. Howard Dietz and Arthur Schwartz composers, music by Leo Reisman and his band.
I see a new sun up in a new sky, and my whole horizon has reached a new high. Yesterday my heart sang a blue song, but today hear it hum a cheery new song.
After his sister Adele retired, Fred did one last Broadway play, Gay Divorce, and from this had his first number one hit of the year for 1932, in Night and Day, composed by Cole Porter. This was Fred's only collaboration with the great composer, who mostly worked for MGM, until Broadway Melody of 1940. And this was the only song carried over to the movie Gay Divorce, 1934. You might find it curious that in The Gay Divorcee, that the song The Continental, sung by Ginger and others, was the first Oscar Best Song winner, while what was the number one song of the year 2 years before, Night and Day, was totally ignored. That is because it was first performed in the play and therefore not eligible. The ever-changing rules of this category is why, so often, the obvious Best Movie Song of the Year never gets any recognition. Here is Night and Day, the number one song of 1932, from the play Gay Divorce, Cole Porter composer, music by Leo Reisman and his band.
Night and day, you are the one, only you beneath the moon and under the sun. Whether near to me or far, it's no matter, darling, where you are, I think of you, night and day.
Fred skipped 1933, but in 1934, in Fred and Ginger's first movie together, Flying Down to Rio, Fred's rendition of the title song hit number 45 for the year. It was not as popular as the song Karaoke from the same movie, the song from Fred and Ginger's breakout dance routine that launched them to fame. The rendition of that song by Enrique Madriguera hit number one for the week. The song was written by Edward Alescu, Gus Kahn, and Vincent Yeomans. Edward Alescu composed for Broadway and the movies. His most successful song was More Than You Know. Gus Kahn was a lyricist with many song standards, including Toot Toot Tootsie Goodbye, It Had to Be You, Yes Sir, That's My Baby, Making Whoopee, and Dream a Little Dream of Me. Vincent Yeomans was very successful on Broadway, especially with No No Nanette and its two hit songs, Tea for Two and I Want to Be Happy. His career was cut short by tuberculosis. Number 45 Song of the Year for 1934, Flying Down to Rio. Title song from the movie of the same name. Vincent Yeomans, Gus Kahn, and Edward Alescu composers.
Where the lovely Brazilian ladies will catch your eye by the light of the million stars in the evening sky. My Rio, Rio by the sea, oh, flying down to Rio where there's rhythm and rhyme.
Fred was doing pretty well so far on the radio, but he had no hit songs from the next two Fred and Ginger movies, The Gay Divorcee and Roberta. That all changed big time, with a feat that I believe has never occurred before or after. But again, I do not have enough data to say that with 100% confidence. Their next movie, their highest revenue movie ever, Top Hat, had 5 songs and dance scenes, and all 5 Fred recordings hit the weekly top 10, with 3 of them making the top 100 for the year, including the number 1 and number 9 songs of the year. Amazing. This was the beginning of a 4-year run where Fred reigned supreme on the radio. Irving Berlin composed these 5 songs. Arguably the greatest songwriter of all time, the list of his great songs, his awards, and the musical standards he wrote is astounding. Making it even more astounding, he was a poor boy, a waiter, with little education, could not read sheet music, and could barely play the piano. But he sure could write songs. His list of all-time standards includes Alexander's Ragtime Band, Blue Skies, Easter Parade, Putting on the Ritz, Cheek to Cheek, White Christmas, Happy Holiday, Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better, There's No Business Like Show Business, and, possibly most importantly, God Bless America. And for Top Hat, he was at the top of his game. A veteran of World War I, for World War II, his stage show and later movie, This Is the Army, raised more than $10 million for the U.S. Army. Berlin was on tour with this for 3.5 years, touring both across America to raise money and across the world, entertaining our troops. For this, he was awarded the Medal of Merit by President Truman. 3 of the 5 songs were performed by Leah Reisman and 2 by Johnny Green and his orchestra. The child of musicians, he was a prodigy, entering Harvard University at 15. Guy Lombardo discovered him, and his first hit song was written for Lombardo. He composed Bing Crosby's first number 1 hit, Out of Nowhere, 1931. Nominated for 13 Oscars, he won 4 for Easter Parade, An American in Paris, West Side Story, and Oliver. The beautiful Cheek to Cheek was the number 1 song of 1935. I am sure it was enhanced by one of Fred and Ginger's most elegant dance routines, Drive-In's number 2 Top 100 Movie Dances.
Heaven, I'm in heaven, and my heart beats so that I can hardly speak, and I seem to find the happiness I seek when we're out together dancing cheek to cheek.
The great Top Hat, White Tie and Tails was number 9 for the year, and Drive-In's number 38 Top 100 Movie Dances.
I just got an invitation through the mail. Your presence requested this evening, it's formal, a top hat, a white tie, and tails. So I'm putting on the top hat, tying up a white tie, brushing off my tails.
The Piccolino was number 57 for the year and nominated Oscar Best Dance Direction. Ginger sang this song in the movie, and there is an entire backstory to this, covered in the documentary series.
By the Adriatic water, Venetian sons and daughters are strumming a new tune upon their guitar. He sent his melody across the sea to Italy, and we know they wrote some words to fit that catchy bit and christened it the Piccolino.
Isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain? Hit number 3 for the week.
The weather is brightening, the thunder and lightning seem to be having their way. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a lovely day. Isn't this a lovely day to be caught in the rain? You were going on your way, now you've got to remain.
No Strings, I'm Fancy Free. Hit number 9 for the week.
No dates that can't be broken, no words that can't be spoken, especially when I am feeling romancy. Like a robin upon a tree, like a sailor that goes to sea, like an unwritten melody, I'm free, that's me. So bring on the big attraction, my decks are cleared for action. I'm fancy free and free for anything fancy.
Even though work on Swing Time had already begun, RKO decided, because of the huge popularity of Top Hat, to rush out another movie, Follow the Fleet. From this, Fred had the 22nd song of the year, and 2 other hits hit the top 10 for the week. Once again, Irving Berlin was the composer. Again, Fred covered Let Yourself Go, which was sung by Ginger in the movie, and I'm Putting All My Eggs in One Basket, which was sung by both of them. Covered in the documentary, Ginger did do an album after Top Hat, but after completed canceled the project. I cannot find Ginger anywhere on the Billboard lists. I assume if I ever find the weekly data from the 30s, she will be there somewhere, but with my current data there is nothing. Her big contribution to the radio was in doing movie scripts.
I've been a roaming Romeo, my Juliets have been many, but now my roaming days have gone. I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm betting everything I've got on you. I'm giving all my love to one baby. Heaven help me if my baby don't come through.
Let Yourself Go hit number 2 for the week.
So, come get together, let the dance floor feel your leather, step as lightly as a feather, let yourself go. Come hit the timber, loosen up and start to limber, can't you hear that hot marimba, let yourself go, let yourself go, relax and let yourself go, relax, you've got yourself tied up in a knot, the night is cold but the music's hot.
Let's Face the Music and Dance hit number 5 for the week. I was surprised with this. It is such a beautiful song and dance scene, the best in the movie. Drive-In's number 22 top 100 movie dances. But I guess that does not translate to radio.
There may be trouble ahead, but while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance. Soon we'll be without the moon, humming a different tune, and then there may be teardrops to shed. So while there's moonlight and music and love and romance, let's face the music and dance, dance. Let's face the music and dance.
Swing Time is considered by many Fred and Ginger's greatest movie. Songs composed by Jerome Kern and Dorothy Field, it had the number 2 song of the year in The Way You Look Tonight and number 14 in A Fine Romance. I consider The Way You Look Tonight the greatest song from the Fred and Ginger series, and the greatest song to come out of this early period. It lost out to the number 1 song Pennies from Heaven by Bing Crosby, Fred's competitor and frequent co-star. Jerome Kern is among the greatest composers of all time, big on Broadway and London's West End. He was the driving force and composer for the revolutionary Showboat, and composed for over 100 plays. No less successful in the movies, his work was nominated 8 times, with 2 wins, for The Way You Look Tonight from Swing Time, 1936, and The Last Time I Saw Paris from Lady Be Good, 1941. Here is a list, hardly complete, of his hit songs. Kern teamed up with all the great lyricists of his time, and often with the great Dorothy Fields. Daughter of one of the greatest theater producers of his time, Lou Fields, she wrote more than 400 songs for plays and movies. She had 2 Oscar nominations, for Lovely to Look At from Roberta, 1935, and 1 for The Way You Look Tonight from Swing Time, 1936. Here is The Way You Look Tonight, the number 2 song of 1936, music by Johnny Green and his orchestra.
when I'm awfully low, when the world is cold, I will feel a glow just thinking of you and the way you look tonight. 'Cause I love you just the way you look tonight. Just the way you look tonight.
Here is A Fine Romance, the number 14 song of 1936. Music by Johnny Green and his orchestra.
A fine romance with no kisses. A fine romance, my friend. This is, we should be like a couple of hot tomatoes. But you're as cold as yesterday's mashed potatoes. A fine romance with no clinches. A fine romance with no pinches. You never give the orchids I send a glance. No, you like cactus plants. This is a fine romance.
In 1936, Fred released I'm Building Up to an Awful Letdown, a song he wrote with lyricist Johnny Mercer, and it hit number 4 on the weekly charts. Johnny Mercer was another prolific songwriter, writing more than 1,500 songs for plays, movies, and other. He was Oscar nominated 19 times and won 4 Best Original Song Oscars. He also co-founded Capitol Records with partners. The Songwriters Hall of Fame's top award is the Johnny Mercer Award. Here is a partial list of some of his greatest songs.
I'm like Humpty Dumpty up on the garden wall. I'm riding high, and who can deny that whatever goes up must fall? Poor old Humpty Dumpty, he got the toughest break, and yet his fall was nothing at all like the tumble I'm gonna take. I'm building up to an awful letdown by playing around with you. You're breaking down my terrific build-up by treating me as you do.
Throughout the period when Fred and Ginger were starring in the movies, they were also stars on the radio, and not just with songs on the Billboard Top 100. They regularly appeared as hosts or guests on variety shows or, as was common in the period before television, performing in radio renditions of movies or plays. You can find these performances all over the internet. Fred's workaholic nature was to work on one thing to perfection, and his obsession was his movies. His radio presence is limited, and I believe this is a complete list. He did agree to host a radio variety show for Packard Motors starring September 1936. A 39-week, 1-hour show with an option for 2 more years. It was a hit, but it frustrated him, and he begged out of the option. From 1937's Fred and Ginger movie, Shall We Dance, Fred had the 4th song of 1937, They Can't Take That Away From Me, and the 58th with Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, composed by George and Ira Gershwin. Never Gonna Dance and They Can't Take That Away From Me are the 2 most passionate songs of the Fred and Ginger series. I have many problems with management decisions in Shall We Dance, one of the main being the handling of the song. The scene where Fred sings it to a teary-eyed Ginger is very nice, but then, in the big ballroom dance to the song, Fred dances it with ballerina contortionist Harriet Hochter instead of Ginger. 12 years later, they rectified this mistake in a beautiful Fred and Ginger dance to it in their 1949 reunion movie, The Barclays of Broadway. Here is the number 4 song of 1937, They Can't Take That Away From Me. Music by Johnny Green and his orchestra.
We may never, never meet again on the bumpy road to love, but I'll always, always keep the memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we danced till 3, the way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me.
The 58th song of 1937, Let's Call the Whole Thing Off, is an interesting study of how a lyricist works. Ira Gershwin noticed Fred said either, while Ginger said either, and that was his inspiration. The song has become only more well-regarded in time, AFI's 34th Top 100 song. Here is Fred's recorded rendition, music again by Johnny Green and his orchestra.
You say either, and I say either. You say neither, and I say neither. Either, either, neither, neither. Let's call the whole thing off. But oh, if we call the whole thing off, then we must part. And oh, if we ever part, then that might break my heart.
The movie Carefree, 1938, had the least songs of any of their movies, at only 4. Composed by Irving Berlin, Change Partners was the 6th song of 1938. Ray Noble was a multi-talented English performer, band leader, composer and arranger, radio host, and a movie and television comedian and actor.
Must you dance every dance with the same fortunate man? You have danced with him since the music began. Won't you change partners and dance with me? Ask him to sit this one out, and while you're alone, I'll tell the waiter to tell him he's wanted on the telephone. Won't you change partners, and then you may never have to change partners again.
In Fred's only solo movie during his partnership period with Ginger, A Damsel in Distress, 1937, Fred had the number 16 song of 1938, Nice Work If You Can Get It.
The man who only cares for making money lives a life that isn't necessarily sunny. Likewise, the man who works for fame, there's no guarantee that time won't erase his name. Fall in love, you won't regret it. That's the best work of all if you can get it. Strolling with the one girl, sighing sigh after sigh. Nice work if you can get it, and you can get it if you try.
With that, Fred's incredible string of Billboard Top 100 hits came to an end. 5 years later, he had his last Top 100 for the year, I'm Old-Fashioned, from You Were Never Lonelier, 1943.
I'm old-fashioned, I love the moonlight, I love the old-fashioned things, the sound of rain upon a window pane, the starry song that April sings.
Please like and subscribe.